takes a moment for it to come on. All right, and we are probably live. Let me see. Hey folks, if you see us, chime in. I'm trying to make sure that we can get out to you here. It's DJ Hamouris, and I'm looking forward to talking with Karen Mueller, who's here with me now. Let me hit one more thing. There we go. We got 4 people watching.
Hello.
Yes. Hi, folks. Welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Karen. It's Karen Mueller and DJ Hamouris for Dulcimoon Talk number 4. And gosh, here we are live from Minneapolis, is it?
Yes.
Minneapolis to the San Francisco Bay Area. Here we are.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, welcome. Hey, folks, we're going to be seeing if we can check into the chat on our phones from time to time. But any questions you might have for us today, we can definitely answer them afterwards in the replay. Plus, anybody who's watching this after the moment we are actually live streaming, we'll take a look in a day or so and make sure that your questions get answered. But right now, welcome to Karen Mueller of Minneapolis with her Autoharp and dulcimer at hand. Look at that. Look at that.
Yes. This is my teaching studio. So I have these things ready to go, as well as the mandolin, ukulele, and guitar over there. So I can grab them and teach.
Right, right. You're one of those multi-instrumentalists.
Keeps things interesting.
Yeah, it definitely keeps interesting. I'm so glad that when we asked you if you would participate in Dulcimoon, gosh, a year and a half lead up, right. You were willing to come on board and be one of our stellar staff. Thanks so much.
Sure, my pleasure. Thanks for doing it. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it. Yeah,
we were, Karen and I first met when she came out to California for the Berkeley Dulcimer Gathering a few years back. And that was a great weekend. That was fun. Really was. I loved being able to host you, take you over to the Freight and Salvage for a concert and stuff like that. That's always fun to do as a producer.
So fun.
Yeah. So what are you up to today?
Later today, I'll be doing lessons today, and otherwise just enjoying the summer here in Minneapolis because it's not very long, so we have to make the most of it.
I have a friend from that area. She was the one who taught me about the seasons of shovel and SWAT.
Perfect.
So you're in SWAT right now.
In SWAT.
Or construction or snow, right?
Right.
Right. So we were talking earlier, and I got your mind going about women musicians and teachers who had influenced you. And I'm particularly interested in those that influenced you to take up the 2 instruments you are seated with right now.
These 2 lovelies. Mm-hmm. Those were actually kind of a later evolution in my musical life. But my first introduction to the dulcimer was subconscious. My parents were fairly broad-based musical listeners and players, and were both involved in music. And though mostly classically oriented, they also appreciated folk music and different kinds of pop and things like that. And I had a lullaby record, and I must have been maybe 3 or 4 that was folk performers from all over the world, and one was Gene Ritchie. So there's a Gene Ritchie song on the record. There's a Pete Seeger with the banjo. Just absolute favorite. I had no idea, of course, like I'm 3 or 4 what that is, but it got in there.
Right.
And then I didn't really see another dulcimer probably until I was in high school, and I had an English teacher who played and brought it in once. but I played piano from about age 5 on through 16, and then I had picked up guitar when I was 14 and gotten into the whole string thing. It's wonderful and tactile and very freeing. And my hometown of Winfield, Kansas, is the hometown of the Walnut Valley Festival. It began as a small bluegrass festival, but then they would have some other events that were a little bit more diversified.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started going to that and getting exposed to different styles of music and jamming. What a concept, bringing my guitar and being welcomed into some of these jams around the fire. And still, I'm trying to think of where the whole dulcimer thing grabbed me. The first one of the two that I started playing was the Autoharp when I was a junior in high school, and I had seen Brian Bowers performing at the festival, and he was the first person that I saw playing melodic Autoharp, actually picking out really beautiful melodies on it. And before that, I had thought it was sort of just not a real instrument. And I played guitar, so why would I want to do this whole button and thing? But that's when I started that, and I had to teach myself by listening to his first record and just doing a trial and error by ear.
Wow, that's a process.
Yeah. I had been using that a lot when I was playing guitar, because I played classical guitar, but also if I wanted to just play along, songs on the radio or records that I had, I would just do that for fun. And so my ear training had been gradually improving before I decided to try that. And I was a finger picker on the guitar, so the Autoharp melodic is finger picked as well. So that was a good transfer. And then about a year later, less than a year later, my dad and I got a kit to make our own dulcimer. So that was what really got me started playing the dulcimer. And at the same time I got this kit, when we were out in Colorado, I got a Cripple Creek kit. I visited a friend of mine from the Autoharp world, Bonnie Phipps, who was a friend of Bonnie Carroll. So I saw those two playing together for the first time. And Bonnie Phipps recommended that I pick up, see, I have my vinyls here. I want to do show and tell with my record collection. This
Wow, records.
Pacific Rim Dulcimer Project. And here's Bonnie Carroll.
Yeah.
And they were doing more kind of world music and interesting rhythms and original compositions and things like that. And that was what really grabbed me in the dulcimer direction. So Bonnie Carroll was really influential in that, because she was one of the forces behind that record, and her friendship with the other Bonnie was just really important to me in that regard.
That's great. Now, Bonnie has recently retired from making instruments, so full circle there.
Exactly.
Right. One of the things we were thinking of doing is having a round table of women builders, dulcimer builders. And she came to mind. I don't know. Well, we'll see if she wants to talk about it, if she's not doing it anymore. Who knows?
Right.
Right.
So a couple other records here that were important female influences on me musically was Claudia Schmidt.
Right.
And her dulcimer playing was just beautiful and joyful, and her whole persona is amazing, and her voice is amazing. So I saw her at the festival that same fall. I was getting started after my dad and I had finished the dulcimer. And then there is the great Kathy Barton.
Kathy Barton. Oh, right. She just recently passed.
She passed a couple, three years ago.
Yeah.
And so these women were, no more than maybe 10 years older than me, and up there and just doing it. And very inspirational to see that. Did
you get a chance to work with any of them as a student or?
Just as a friend. Kathy became a friend of mine. I met Claudia and hung out with her on several occasions. That's one of the nice things about our dulcimer community and our Autoharp communities and folk in general, is people are very approachable.
Right.
but for the most part, I was self-taught on these things. I also want to do a shout out though to Lois Hornbostel and her
Right.
fabulous books. This was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have the internet. I hadn't heard about DPN yet, but I did find 3 of Lois's books
Right.
a few years into my after I had started.
So DPN, you mean Dulcimer Players News, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Ashley Ernst is definitely one of the major influential women in the Dulcimer community, now being the publisher of Dulcimer Players News. She and I just had a long conversation yesterday. So she's enjoying the rest of summer too.
Yeah.
down in Missouri.
A little bit warmer.
Yeah, a little bit warmer. So was the Lois Hornbostel books, were those the first tablature books you'd come across?
Yeah, they were. And very well written, arranged. You know, the songs are really well arranged, and getting accustomed to reading tab. At one point in the summer, once when I was home from college, I just made it a goal to work through one new song out of her fiddle tune book a week and learn those and get more fluent in tab reading. Yeah,
for me too. When I had been playing dulcimer for a couple of decades, when I finally encountered a group of people that were also playing through Redwood Dulcimer Day, and they said, "Oh, you're a musician and you play dulcimer. Let's get together." And I said, "Sure, that sounds like fun." And they showed up and they had these pieces of paper with dots on them and numbers. And I said, "What's this?"
Really?
I had no idea. I was just, deer in the headlights. Wait, I've been a musician since I was 5. I have no idea what this is. So yeah, read and tab, especially if the only music you've read is standard notation, right?
Right.
And
it's a thing. This anthology, it has both notes and tab, but fiddle tune book was just tab. Right.
So who are some of the other influential musicians in your life, women musicians?
As I'm thinking like the pop rock kind of scene, that the theme that kind of runs through my favorite female musicians were ones that were on their own, able to kind of do what they wanted to do, and also those that played instruments. So early on, Karen Carpenter was a real eye opener. It's like, she plays drums. I was a kid and it's like, I want drums. And my parents were like, maybe just stay with the piano. I can see they're like, no. But that was a really cool thing. Not only a knockout voice and beautiful arrangements, but she was playing drums. Joni Mitchell, absolutely. And Linda Ronstadt, who she could sing the phone book, but she could do like any style she wanted, and was a very approachable person from what I heard from friends of mine who actually worked with her.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
So what do you think about the fact that Joni Mitchell is basically hitting the pop charts again?
I love it. Oh, I absolutely love that. She is just so tenacious. I know her rehab from her stroke.
Right.
Somewhat, nothing short of miraculous, because she just worked at it.
Well, she's nothing if not persevering, right? And the performances from the Newport Folk Festival are just mind-boggling. Folks, if you haven't seen them yet, you absolutely must. There are definitely dulcimers in there. There's a pair of guys who are twins that are a folk band, and they're playing the dulcimer on Carrie when she sings it. So
it's amazing.
It is amazing.
I actually, my first favorite Joni album was Court and Spark, which doesn't have any dulcimer on it, but that's what just absolutely blew me away. And I like Miles of Isles was really useful to me, because you could hear her tuning things in between. It's a live album. And as a guitar player, I couldn't figure out her tunings until I heard some of these little moments where she's retuning, and then she can use bar chords up the neck instead of having to do all these really awkward, chord fingerings.
Right.
after, and actually one of my really big moments as far as development was my first band that I joined when I was still, or helped form when I was still in college.
Mhm.
And it was with two other women, and we called it Full Circle. And we had just started out as two dulcimers, or dulcimer and autoharp, hammer dulcimer. So I would play either dulcimer and autoharp or guitar. Deborah Pine played dulcimer really, really well. And we had first just found each other at a local folk festival and started getting together and playing dulcimer duets. And she was more advanced than me, and I learned a lot from her. And then our friend Jeanette played hammer, dulcimer, and flute primarily. And we had this really great synergy and an ear for arranging things that really wove our instruments together in a really beautiful way.
Did you play auto harp in that too?
I did dulcimer, autoharp, and guitar. And then about a year or two into it, I picked up the mandolin. And I'm going to go through my albums here. Janita Baker. Deborah had this record and loaned it to me because she had learned some of Janita's songs. And that's a revelation too, her 4 equidistant strings and just beautiful finger picking. And then also influential for us as a band was the band Trapezoid.
Oh yeah, I remember Trapezoid.
So in the early to mid 80s, just the way that they approach songs and arranging in very beautiful and musical ways, not just your standard, now you take a break, now you take a break. It was all that interweaving and harmony and coming up with very creative breaks. And the three of us actually took a road trip to West Virginia the summer after I graduated from college, and we took a workshop with the band, the whole band, at the Augusta Heritage Center. They were offering one called The Art of Music, the Art of Performing and the Business of Music. So it was perfect for a fledgling band because Paul Reisler would handle the business and just coach us in how to set up our promo and how to contact presenters, just that whole thing, and finances. And then Lorraine Dweezy would be the one primarily in the afternoon that coached us on our performances. So we would present, and then we'd get all these great ideas coming back from them. And so that just really helped us get off to a very solid start.
That's wonderful. It's great to get that kind of feedback. And it's so seldom that, especially folk musicians, end up getting any kind of professional coaching. Yes, we love this and we love to do this, but we would like to be making enough money not to have to do something else too. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. Though at the time, my job after I graduated from college, when I was taking the proverbial year off from college before going to a graduate school. I was an English and art history major. And I had what would be an equivalent of like a minor in studio art. And I just needed to try to process which direction to go. And looking for a job, either something in the, with my English degree, with some journalism experience in writing or editing, or something with the art, just to work with my hands. And I was fortunate enough to get a job working in a small custom jewelry studio, doing metal smithing and repair work and stone setting, and just really great high-end, gold and silver work and original designs and things like that. So that was my day job. And then in the evenings, we would have rehearsal, and then eventually another band that I co-formed. So I had two bands. One was a progressive Celtic group, and the other, Full Circle, was a pan folk. We kind of did anything we liked.
Right.
And performing on the weekends. So did that for almost 4 years. And that was in Lawrence, Kansas, because I'd gone to college at the University of Kansas in Lawrence, and I just stayed there. And just kind of forgot about that year off thing. It's like, well, this is still working. Right. And I'll just keep going with this for a little longer.
Yeah. So how long did you, that it's really fantastic that you found something in an allied field that is creative, and you were able to both craft that the craft of it and also use the aesthetic aspect of creating that jewelry and learning from a master, I'm assuming.
Yeah, definitely an apprentice kind of situation. Mhm.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
So
I'll say,
go ahead.
sometimes when I was in the training stage, I would show up to practice with all these band-aids on my hands because it was not without its own dangers working with saws and torches and
Yes.
grinding wheels. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. Well, for me, I always ended up doing some kind of administrative work. But the work that I liked best was when I was working with churches, because at least there was allied, and sometimes I'd be asked to do some, church services and stuff as a musician. And usually it was the sort of work I could just leave there so that my mind could then be focused on my creative life.
Yes, exactly. That's what I had to. It's like you leave the studio, you're done.
That's right.
Even though I know now, I kind of wish I would have stayed after hours and made more jewelry for myself. I made some pieces, but like, oh, I would love to have some, earrings that match this pendant that I made. Oh, well.
Oh, well. Yeah.
Time to go to rehearsal.
Yeah. When my husband was in, before I knew him, he's with his kids growing up, and he was a drama major. So he was doing lots of rehearsals as well. It's one of the reasons why we could get together. I learned early on that the only partner for me had to understand about rehearsals. Not everybody did.
They
right?
do take time.
They take time, and
you're with your other family.
Right. It is your other family. And his kid, his son, was taken to saying double rehearsals.
Oh, poor kid.
He couldn't see dad because there was a double rehearsal. Families, right?
Yeah.
So when did you end up in Minneapolis and why?
In 89. And who knows, well, I know why, but I moved in January 89. Right.
Must have been a good reason.
I had been, I'd been planning to for almost like half a year. I wasn't foreign to these parts. My mom was a Minnesotan. My dad was from Wisconsin. Our family was all here. We did summers up here. And Minneapolis has such a broad arts community.
Oh, okay.
It is really fabulous. It has like the second highest per capita in theater behind New York City. Music scene is really broadly diverse. I just wanted to try my hand at a broader scene. We had done sort of the Midwest circuit. My bands had performed at the North Texas Irish Festival, Ren Fests, local festivals, but I was feeling like I needed to try something else. And so I'd come and visit some friends who were in theater work on some weekends and go to jams and concerts and met lots of people. So when I moved up here, I had kind of 3 bands ready to go that I just got to right away in a school residency program. Started teaching at 2 different music venues, a store and a music school, and still had to do some office temping to keep things up. But I was gradually seeing a little inkling that I could do music full time. And the January thing came because I was committed to the jewelry studio to go through Christmas, because that's the prime season.
Right.
And then I was like, after Christmas, like, okay, load up the U-Haul and drive up, and hey, the weather's fine. Oh, wait a minute, there's a blizzard coming down when I get to Iowa. Anyway, it's been an adventure in finding warm clothing. That's the sort of the theme of winter here. Right.
Well, you told me you made a list. You made a list of women who had influenced you, and we have about another 7 minutes to hit your list.
So top of the list is my mom. Always. She played organ and French horn and piano, and was a choir director and church organist, and in spare time did those rehearsals with city band, and she would accompany singers around town, and was my first piano teacher.
Hmm.
And then my main piano teacher, when Mom said, it's probably best that we don't do this, it was a woman named Mrs. Barr, who was the one that did just really amazing combinations of theory work and creative process and analysis. We did recitals every month in her studio, so I always had to have
Wow.
memorized. But as long as I did my classical stuff, she would let me do a pop or rock song in the recital. So I would do like Theme from Tommy, and Bang Away and some Beatles stuff. So that open-mindedness was what really kept me interested.
Mhm.
I'm grateful to a woman who gave me a job when I was just out of high school in summers doing music therapy, named Ray Lynn Hill. And she was a friend of our family, and I was her assistant. She was a head music therapist at the Winfield State Hospital, and entrusted me with a lot of responsibility as a 17-year-old to go out on the wards and do music sessions with the residents, and whether it's playing for them or sing-alongs or rhythm band and that kind of stuff. And I think that still is an influence in my approach to teaching, really.
Also,
And you see the difference that music makes in people's lives wherever they're at. And you don't say you have to achieve this level of proficiency. You give them what will help fulfill their lives.
right.
And that's going to lead me to what I was telling you before, my two favorite dulcimer students.
Right.
Yeah. From really, really different ends of that whole kind of spectrum. My first dulcimer student probably ever was not until I moved up here in '89. I had done some workshops in Autoharp because a woman named Becky Blackley, who was a real mover and shaker in the Autoharp world, took me under her wing after I won first place at the International Autoharp Championship in Winfield in '86. And she invited me to co-teach with her at Augusta Heritage Center already a year after that, and some things that she was doing in California. And I learned really a lot about workshop teaching, everything, and writing Autoharp tab from her. But the dulcimer, my first dulcimer student at the music store in town called Homestead Pick and Parlor was a woman named Jen Woodnick. And she started playing dulcimer when she was 65. She had a long career as a figure skating instructor and choreographer, but she had been told when she was second grade or so that she would never be able to play music. Can you imagine how horrible a person would be, like a teacher, to say that to a kid? And she was sensitive, and she took that through her whole life. But then she was retired from this career and said, I'm going to learn this. And she just blossomed right away. And I had to really learn how to write tab to do the songs that she wanted to learn. I always ask people, what do you want to learn that really means a lot to you? And if we can't find it in a book, I'll write it out. So I had to learn how to write tab in a hurry. And she would say, you can't be sad with this puppy in your lap. She would just talk about the bumps and the ditties, and just like, just glowed. And I think, she took lessons for about maybe 5 years or so. And then she just got too busy. She started taking martial arts, and she was the one who would be up on the roof shoveling the snow off her roof, and she was like 75, 80. And she just passed away last week at 98. So I wanted to give her a shout out. And on the other end of the spectrum is Grant Olson, who is the 2019 National Dulcimer Champion when he was 17. Started taking lessons with me when he was 11. He had come to a workshop that I had done with kids making a one-string dulcimer when he was 10, and started lessons about a year and a half later. And we had great student-mentor relationship, and his motivation was amazing. So 2 favorite dulcimer students.
What's really funny is I have only 2 things on my calendar today. A lot of work in between. This is you And this afternoon is a Grant Olson workshop.
Right. Dulcimer Crossing. He's doing
Dulcimer Crossing, yeah. Yeah, if you folks don't know about dulcimercrossing.com, it's a great subscription site that has lots and lots of different teachers, and they have workshops on a regular basis too. So yeah, that's quite the contrast there.
Yeah. And everything in between, of course.
Right, right. And do you feel like you've been influential in other young women's musical lives that they tell you?
I hope so. Yes. Yes. And you don't get a whole lot of young women. We have more dulcimer players, who are younger, but the school projects that I do are useful. And I have more girls taking lessons from me on guitar and ukulele.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The cat is awake.
You woke him up.
And I just really love, teaching girls how to play guitar. I just think that's super great, super important.
Right. And it's accessible. Dulcimer, they have to get introduced to it at a level that they can find, whether it's hammered or mountain dulcimer. There has to be someone that sparks their interest. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, gosh, we're at 9:30. Did we get through your list?
We got through my list.
Yay.
Did we get through your list?
We got through my list. I wanted to know about how you got involved in both of those instruments, and you said. And, one of the things that we're working with for Dulcimoon is to bring some of this creative expression aspect to the classes. And Judy and Erin Mae and I, Judy House is our educational director, and Erin Mae Lewis and I have been talking about how to help to bring that aspect into classes, not just saying, okay, Karen, you need to teach 5 classes and they're at these levels. No, we want to give you a little more information about what we'd like. We'd like to have things that help people with creative expression and personal expression. And, how can you take what you really know and assist them in gaining their own creative expression, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. That is what it's all about. That's what I try to do with my private lessons and workshops every day.
Oh, yeah. So we'll have some fun finding things there. So thank you so much, Karen. Hey, folks, we're going to have another one of these in a couple of weeks. I'm not sure who's going to host it and who's going to be. So just tune in. We'll post it probably a week ahead. And we are trying to get some donations going for our capital fund for the Dulcimoon Festival to make sure that all of our expenses are underwritten before we start opening registration. So do go to dulcimoon.com and hit that donate button, see what level you think you can manage. And we're always grateful for all levels of donations and for your interest. Let your friends know that these talks go on and are available for replay like endlessly. So you can say, hey, you got to go check out this talk with Karen Mueller today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, DJ. This is so fun.
Yeah, it is fun.
Thanks everybody for tuning in and watching.
Yes, definitely. We will see you again in a couple of weeks, and I'll talk with you soon. Take care, hon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Now I have to find the bye-bye button. End.